Welcome, my name is Peter Strong and I provide online therapy for anxiety and also for depression and other common emotional problems that can benefit from mindfulness training. So if you like the idea of seeing an online therapist for help with your anxiety, then please go to my website, learn more about this service, and then reach out to me by email. Ask any questions you might have about how online therapy can help you, and of course tell me specifically about the kind of issues that you're dealing with, and I'd be happy to explain to you how we can help you overcome your anxiety by using mindfulness therapy techniques. So during mindfulness therapy sessions, I will teach you how to change the impact of anxiety on your well-being. The most common problem that we have to address is the problem of reactive identification. This is where you essentially become identified with your anxiety or other emotions. During mindfulness training, we learn how to effectively meditate on our anxiety without becoming consumed by it. You learn to form a non-reactive relationship with your anxiety by deliberately training with it. Of course, our habit is usually to avoid our anxiety, to try to escape from it, to try and medicate it, which is simply yet another form of escape or avoidance. Or we become lost in the anxiety through reactive identification. What we need to do is to train with your anxiety and effectively form a relationship with it whereby you stop that habit of feeding it through identification or other forms of reactivity. When you can do that, then you can begin to change that anxiety habit. And anxiety is, at the end of the day, a habit. It is simply a conditioned reaction that has become unconscious, that gets triggered over and over again. And we are trying to break that unconscious habit by focusing mindful awareness upon that habit. When you break the habit of feeding the anxiety, then you can help it change. And we do this by a variety of mindfulness-based techniques, perhaps the most important one being the response of compassion. This is where we develop a compassionate relationship with the anxiety or other emotion itself. We actually learn to comfort that internal fear, which is what anxiety is. We learn to relate to our emotions in the same way that we might relate to a child or another friend that's in need, that's in pain. We learn to form a compassionate relationship with the anxiety. We learn to hold it in our compassionate embrace. And that is basically what we mean by mindfulness. By being mindful of anxiety means to stay conscious with it and then respond to it in a compassionate way that helps that anxiety heal. One of the most important parts of the compassionate response is actually looking at the imagery of the anxiety and changing that imagery. I can explain this to you in more detail during our first session together if you choose to contact me and schedule an online therapy session. But working with the imagery of anxiety is immensely powerful. This is why, for example, we typically describe anxiety as being overwhelming. It's overwhelming because the imagery is very large and has a position above us in our internal psychological imagery. That's how we see the emotion, being very large, being very consuming, and generally at a high level. It has to be at a high level to overwhelm you. So this internal emotional imagery operates habitually, unconsciously, without our knowing about it. But once we start exploring it through mindfulness, then we begin to uncover this imagery, and when you make it conscious, you can then change that imagery. And when you change the imagery of any emotion, you change that emotion directly, because that imagery is required to make that emotion. So, working on changing your relationship to anxiety so that you do not feed it through unconscious reactivity is essential. But then exploring and changing the unconscious imagery of the anxiety is also essential. And I will teach you exactly how to do this during our online therapy sessions together. So if you'd like to learn more, simply contact me and let's schedule a Skype therapy session so you can see for yourself just how effective this mindfulness approach can be for healing anxiety. Thank you.